Hi all, very good morning and greetings. Welcome to this advanced performance engineering training with real hands-on session. This is the first demo. I'll be talking about the complete course plan. What is that you're going to learn from this course, and okay, why this course? Most importantly, everyone is having a question, right? We are getting so much of theoretical knowledge, so we want to really understand what exactly will happen in real time. We would like to monitor the different web app DB servers with Java and .NET based applications when the load test is happening, right? That is what everyone's requirement, common requirement. So if you take the performance engineering, right? When I talk something about performance engineering, it is mostly very huge. It talks in different directions. If you look at the recent emerging stack, right? If you look at the most common JDs with all services-based companies and product-based companies, the requirements are very unique, right? So most of the performance engineers now, every company or every stakeholder is thing has to tune every server. Like he has to get some experience on Kubernetes, Docker, containerized environments. He should have some complete development experience. Some people are expecting to have some Python or machine learning platforms or IoT performance testing, Java web-based performance testing, mobile performance testing. So a lot of things have changed. So we have come up with some common agenda. We are considering all the inputs from different performance engineers. Like what is that we have to cover in one bundle, in one total package. We also have different performance engineering courses. I'll explain you that very clearly. So before I start the training, let me give you my introduction. Okay. I am Radhakrishnan Prasad. I have total of 10 plus years of experience into core performance testing and engineering. And I have been involved in every individual phase of performance testing life cycle, engineering life cycle, right from the non-functional requirement gathering till the sign off. Okay, so as every one of you know, I have been involved in the complex scripts for the very first time. I started my career complex scripting, execution, analysis, uh, and all of the stuff. In addition to that, as part of Performance Center of Excellence and Learning and Development, okay, I have trained more than 4,000 plus associates from both organization and client level over the years with many IT companies. And the current role that I am working as senior performance SME, okay, who is taking care of one of the APM tool with one of the major product-based companies, and that APM tool is a competitor for Dynatrace and AppDynamics. Okay, so this is all about myself, and we can talk about all of your questions in the end of the session. Okay, if you have anything, if you want to ask anything immediately, you can interrupt and you can ask then and there. I don't have an issue. But again, we have a different slot available at the end of this session for all your question and answers. Okay. So okay, the second slide is what I have explained about myself, all the activities and all. And I have been a part of the core performance engineering practices from the last 5 years, where I am dealing with multiple projects. Okay, so I'm also a part of Center of Excellence, where we are educating the customers. We are defining the roadmaps for the stakeholders who doesn't really know what is performance testing and where they have to start it. Okay, so this is all about myself. And as I told you, everyone is having a question like what is that I have to, what is that I learn from this course, why I should join this course, right? This course is actually it's more into practical. Okay, so we are going to cover every concept of Java basic level, advanced level, .NET basic level, advanced level, the database tuning advanced level, the client side performance testing. Okay, some of the core performance engineering concepts, all these things will be taken care theoretically and also practically. What I mean to say here is we have a .NET application that is deployed. Okay, on the IAS server, and that is connected to SQL Server database with Visual Studio integration. Okay, where you have all the .NET profilers like ants profiler, CLR profiler, .trace profiler, all of them are integrated. So for example, if you're running a test, you will be you can see what is happening inside the IAS server or SQL server. You can analyze the IAS logs of a .NET application. You can profile the code, source code. You can make changes from web.config. And also we will clearly tell you how the applications will be deployed on each uh, application servers, and how they are connected to database servers by using some connection string functions, or by using some JDBC driver, or there are some other drivers, right? Various ways to connect directly from the Visual Studio .NET IDE. So all these things. The same thing applies to the .NET application. We are talking about all the basic and advanced concepts, engineering concepts, where we will be showing all of them in real time. Okay. The application will be deployed on the WebLogic application server. We'll also tell you the WebSphere basic tuning, and that the same application will, some dummy data will be connected to Oracle database and MySQL database. Okay, so in this course we are talking about different sections, okay, from basic to advanced level. And this course is for every performance engineer, basically, who is a beginner, who wants to completely change his or her performance testing experience into performance engineering. Okay, I'll also tell you what is the end result of this course in the end of this session. So these are the topics at a very high level. You must have got uh, this content, right? The same thing has been uploaded in uh, yeah, Perf Matrix, and I have already shared the topics that we are going at a very high level. And in-depth course content, right, we are sharing only for the students at the moment. The reason is because there is a lot of stuff that is actually added to each and every section. Okay, so this is the basic overall high level picture. So we were talking about some of the performance engineer testing concepts. It's not scratching the surface again. We are talking about some of the advanced performance testing concepts. Okay, to make you understand before you move to engineering concepts, right? To make you understand what is that you will learn from engineering. So how you want to transform your career into engineering, all these things will be explained in performance testing and engineering concepts. Monitoring, it will talk about all the different web app DB servers that we have, including load balancers like FI and Nginx from both client side and server side. As I told you, we have Java performance engineering course. We have .NET performance engineering course from both basic to advanced levels, explaining all them practices by having some sample applications deployed on multiple web app DB servers again. So students will be able to practice, will be able to understand all the activities that will happen in a complete full life cycle project implementation of any performance testing assignment. Okay, so this is the overall part, like the real time application performance issues and patterns. The performance engineering best practices will talk about the tips and tricks. Okay, mostly the advanced tuning techniques, so the different efficient strategies that you have to follow before you start any of the performance engineering. Okay, for any of the project. And most importantly, as every one of you are aware of this database, so if you take any of the performance testing environment, database is right. Let's say, like, you must be knowing 20% of the bottlenecks, performance bottlenecks, will happen from the web layer, web server. Some 25 to 30% of the performance issues you get from application server, and the remaining 50% performance issues or bottlenecks are directly from the database server. So this is one of the huge concept, database performance monitoring and tuning. It will talk about most of the time we'll talk about Oracle, AWR report, ADDM automatic database diagnostic monitors, ASH active session history reports, the tuning optimizations. So the different memory issues of Oracle database, like program global area, system global area, and user global area and buffer cache. All these things will be discussed. And the last one is, right, the client side performance testing and tuning. Most of us are now have adopted something called client side performance testing as a practice called early performance testing. Then shift left, shift right, CI/CD integrations, all of them are now doing these things. Okay, so this is the overall high level picture. So let me explain every section in detail, so that you'll be having so many questions and we can discuss all of them in the end of the session. Okay, so the first section, as I told you, the performance testing concepts. We are initially again, sorry for going back to another point. The again, everyone must got some doubt, right? Like, who are the audience for this course? The audience for this course, and the prerequisites for this course is a person who is taking this course, right? He should have a handful experience in performance testing, at least 2 to 3 years of experience in performance testing. He has to involve in all the individual phases of performance testing life cycle: scripting, execution, analysis part, tuning part, some basic idea of some APM tools, some profiling tools. For all of them to advance their career into performance engineering, right? This course is for them. Okay, without performance testing, if you're directly joining engineering, this will not help. Okay, performance testing, irrespective of any tool, preferably, I'm sorry, load runner or JMeter. Okay, so or anything near load, with some tool. If you are doing some execution, if you are aware of the terminology of load generators of different flavors of Linux, like CentOS, Ubuntu, Red Hat. So how all these are connected when you perform a virtual load test, which is not really existing with multiple user base. Okay, some with sample workload modeling and all these things are very much required to take up this course. Okay, so in this course I am talking about the introduction to performance testing, some of the best practices, the high demand of the tools, the market trends of each and every tool that we currently have with BFSI, insurance, e-commerce domains, services based companies, or product based companies that you're using. We'll talk all about that stuff. And there are few high level concepts that I have to talk. Understanding the performance targets. Okay, identifying the non functional requirements, performance SLAs. Do not get confused. People use different terminology for this one. Some people call it as SLAs, service level agreement. Some people call it as SOW, statement of work. Some people call it as BVM, business volume metrics. Some people call it as what KPIs, key performance indicators. So there are different terminologies. Don't worry about that. So the first phase of any project, right? It is very very important to understand the performance requirements, non-functional requirements with respect to design, architecture, hardware, the different web app DB servers that you're using, how to create the performance testing environment setup. All these things are here. The reason why we take up this point is most of the performance testing projects fail for this reason: not getting the complete understanding or not finalizing the complete performance SLAs. Okay, so again, the second point, it will talk about the most common performance issues like high CPU, high memory. Every performance will see a performance engineer will see it as part of his work experience. So we are talking about that. And we are talking about some of the best practices in performance testing, and common mistakes in performance test execution and monitoring. And yeah, the production traffic analysis. Even most of the performance engineers, right, who is having some 10 to 12 years now, they fail to understand what is workload model. Okay, so if an application is starting right from the scratch, okay, the development, the testing phase, the non-functional testing phase, all these things are starting from the scratch. You should understand what is the traffic that you have on this site. Or for example, the case can be different. You already have an application in production, but that is not performance tested. Okay. The another case is you have an application which is about to start from tomorrow. Nothing is there in production. So there are various scenarios on how to understand the production traffic. Okay. I don't know how many of you must be aware of Google Analytics. You will be taking the production logs to understand the traffic on the application on the production site, and accordingly you will start creating your own workload model, and you define your capacity model in terms of scalability, all these things, right? So you have to understand the production traffic analysis. And from a performance testing point of view, if you look at the first point in this slide, it is talking about creating the test data. uh, okay, I would like to make this session interactive. If I ask anyone, how do you create a test data, what's your answer for your performance testing?
Yeah,
Anyone?
normally we create test data for performance testing. Like, so we develop some scripts in order to create a bulk test data.
Hmm.
So sometimes if there is already if already test data is available in the database, so we pull with some database queries.
Okay. So let me make this requirement clear. I need some 3 lakh records, okay, SSN numbers if you take, uh, which are unique. If they can be used only in one iteration, only with one user, and you have to run a test with 8 hours or 24 hours, or it can be some endurance test which where you have to run it for 2 days or 4 days. So if you want to create bulk data in, I mean, lakhs of data, which has unique format, which can be used only for once with one user in one iteration, how do you create this data?
Uh,
Normally, yeah, go ahead.
we
Like
can
if
use input inbuilt functions. Let's say in the random parameter or
Mhm.
unique parameters. Or in geometry, we can use counter random parameter.
Okay, let me clarify it. So, for example, if you take the Indian PAN card number, right? If you take APBYB, the first, it is a total 11-digit number. The first 5 letters is alphabetic. The next four letters is numeric, and the last character is again alphabet. You need to identify the format of this data. Okay, so you have to use some commercial test data generation tools, and you have to define some regular expressions, and you have to generate this data. Open source tools will not help you to create all this data. If you have some custom scripts that will help you to create this data, if you want 5 lakh records, it will take a lot of time, which will increase the timeline of your project. Okay, so any release, because people who are having multiple releases in a month or every 2 months, they'll get impacted if the test data creation is taking too much of time. So for this, we have to identify the format of data. We have to use some commercial tool. We have to take it from the COE practice. And once the data is generated, once the data is created, you need to take a help from the DBA. You need to understand to which table in the database your application is hitting. You need to identify the data access path and give all this data to your DBA. Ask him to upload accordingly into the respective table where your application is hitting. Right now, if you want to validate whether the data has been successfully uploaded or not, you have to pick some 10 records randomly, right? And you have to search that records from the front end. If you're able to fetch that records, the customer information with the SSR number, it means that all the data has been successfully uploaded, and this data can be used in your endurance testing of your performance testing and assignment. So all these things, how the data will be created, what kind of data, what is the uniqueness of data, all these things will be discussed in detail. And most importantly, we are helping performance engineers, what can be the best way to transform their career into performance engineer. And if you take the skills required to become a perfect performance engineer, okay, it is a very very important thing. As I told you, right, the traditional performance testing days has completely gone. Okay, so if you look at any of the JDs, any of the job requirements, even for 3 to 5 years experience, every customer's expectation is to have some development experience. So the client, the most of the customers are, if you're running a one-man show, if I am trying to hire a high-skilled performance engineer who is only the man who will take care of all the end-to-end performance testing activities, the stakeholders' expectation was, I hired a performance engineer. He's going to tune the database. He's going to tune the application server. He's going to analyze the code. He's going to redesign, refactor the code. He's going to design the architectural traversal of each and every individual external and internal components involved in my application. We are not doing that, to be honest, right? The role so far that every performance engineer is doing is, they're conducting a test. They're doing multiple flavors of testing: load testing, stress testing, endurance testing, volume testing. They are integrating some monitoring tool, and they are configuring all the metrics from both client side and server side, different web app DB servers, and they're trying to understand what abnormalities you really have when the test is happening, right? How many of you are really taking a heap dump or thread dump? How many of the performance engineers are really getting the complete access to the database? If you want to analyze AWR, if you want to see the active session history report, if you want to check the automatic recommendations and suggestions for all the different database problems, no. If you take any of the sensitive applications like BFSI, Morgan Stanley, Bank of America, no one is allowed to touch. Especially the service-based companies, people will not even get access to QA environment most of the times. When we are not getting the opportunity to work, okay. So the number of years in your experience are increasing, but not the knowledge. So add knowledge to your experience rather than adding years to your experience. So for that, you need to understand what are all the skills that are required to become a perfect performance engineer in the year 2020. If you want to continue your career into core performance, advanced performance engineering practices for the next decade, you need to work in parallel with all the emerging tech stack. For example, microservices architectures, right? All the applications are now migrated to microservices architectures. Second point is, without APM tool, no performance testing will happen. Okay. Third point is, everything is automated, and most of the advanced APM tools has now got some artificial intelligence abilities. If they have some 40,000 metrics, okay, so the tool can tell you with the help of its own intelligence, because they are developed with some AI algorithms, machine data platforms. Some new features have been adopted from Dynatrace, CA APM, or App Dynamics. They out of 60,000, they can. Uh, 1 minute. Allow me a minute, please. I'm sorry for the disturbance. Can all of you place your call on mute, please? All right, I muted you. Okay. So with its own intelligence, right, most of the tools are telling you out of 60,000 metrics, it will filter some 3,000 metrics out of it, and it will tell you what are the problematic metrics. You must be knowing, right? Well, you can create alerts, anomalies, alarms on every individual metric on every server. And Dynatrace now came up with one agent installation. If you're installing one agent, downloading one agent, you're configuring, if you want to monitor the servers, irrespective of any tech stack, you can monitor any server with that one agent. So what I'm trying to tell you here is, you have to, work in parallel with the emerging tech stack, the Dockerized environments, containerized applications, shift left performance testing, CI/CD performance testing, okay, the cloud performance testing. All these things you need to understand, especially if you don't have a development experience, if you don't understand the basic structure of a Java program, if you don't know what is class, what is method, okay, what is an object, you cannot tune anything from the GC logs. You don't know which objects has to be minimized. Okay, uh, you really don't know, you can't take a decision on what a parameter you have to tune when you are using profilers. So we'll help you in all that ways. We'll clearly define all your roles and responsibilities according to the years of experience you have. We'll clearly talk about the different phases that are involved in performance engineering process and performance engineering life cycle. And the last, after completion of this session, we are going to give some hands-on exercises, some kind of a homework, where it will help every experienced performance engineer to create some capacity model or to create some workload model. So the best ways to analyze the production traffic, all these things will be shown in some kind of practical way. Okay. Now, after completion of the basic performance testing, right? Not the basic, the important concepts in performance testing. We are talking about the section 2 performance engineering concepts. Okay. So interpreting the results is most important part. Not every time we're running a test, generating a default report and publishing it to the client will not help, because I have seen many of the customers, even with my experience when I worked with some of the clients, the customers are not allowing to touch the code. The application developed in the early 90s or in 2002 or 2004, but he want a performance improvement up to 29%. He's expecting improvement of 29% without touching the code, without migrating to the new tech stack, okay, without profiling your code, or without uh, efficient analysis. Like when you publish a report, you need to give a suggestion of the potential fix, right, from every layer. In performance testing results, you have user level performance, operational level performance, system level performance, and network level performance. All these four roles will play a very crucial role in analyzing the performance testing results. Okay. And uh, the point, if you see, and one more point, if you see in this slide, how to create a performance testing environment. Not every one of you are testing or doing performance testing on the exact replica of production environment, right? You are not using the mirror image of production environment, and you are not, you're testing on 50% of the size of prod, or one third size of your prod, one fourth size of your prod, because of the budget constraints and all. But whatever you test on this one fourth, one third size of your environment, how do you guarantee that the customer, how do you guarantee the customer that you will not see any of the issues with, if your application is having some 5,000 users? You cannot guarantee that, because whatever you test on the performance testing environment and the production environment are completely different. The bottlenecks, the performance issues that you see in the test performance test environment where you're really doing the testing activities, you'll not see the same bottlenecks in the production environment. Those are the production environment issues are the real problems from the real users. That is why the reason you take the continuous user feedback. All right. So even if you take a classic example, if you take the database server on production environment and the testing environment, if you take the production environment database, there will be lot many things happening on that. There will be a backup process running. There are some multiple batch jobs running. There is some maintenance activities are running. There are some 10 to 15 background jobs that are continuously running on the production environment. It will not go down. Even if it is under maintenance, something will be running on that system. It is up, running all the 365 days, 24 hours, 7 days in a week, all the time, right? So the same thing will not happen in testing environment. Testing environment is only for testing. Whenever you're testing, it will generate a load on the database server, and that database server is not the exact size of prod environment, and you will see different issues. So now what is that you are giving to the customer, or the results that you are publishing to the customer are reliable if you're testing it on the test environment? Definitely no. But you are giving some percentage of guarantee to the customer. This kind of issues can happen if I want to test. If I'm testing with 500 users, these are all the possible issues that can happen. That is why the reason people now, the customers are now asking everyone to do performance testing directly on the production environment on the weekends. People are now testing on production environments on Sundays in the time slot for 4 hours or 5 years, and they're trying to understand what is happening in real time with all the servers. And the reason for dealing this specific topic is most of them are really not aware what is the size of database server I should have if I want to create an environment. If I want to test with 5,000 users, what is the size of, what is the RAM of my database server? What is the how many processors I should have? What is the clock speed of my server? What is the Oracle version? What is the SCA architecture? How many load generators do I need? All these things are industry secrets. We don't have a direct formulas for that. uh, Depending upon your experience, your practices, uh, the design phase involvement, the hardware sizing, the performance engineering, different phases involvement is required to understand all these concepts. Okay, we are also talking about how to do this workload modeling from scratch. The design phase, I told you, right, to understand what kind of servers I need, what size of database I need, why should I use WebLogic instead of using WebSphere, why am I not using JBoss, why should I use Postgres, why don't I use Oracle. To get a detailed understanding, to have this decision making, you need to understand the architectural design phase, the hardware sizing phase, and the application code optimization. I mean, I really know that not everyone from the services based companies will get an opportunity to profile the code, but some of the people who are working in product based companies, right, they will be part of all these phases, because I got to know this difference when I changed my career from services based company to product based company. Okay, especially if you have a COE practice, if your teams are centralized, if you have so much of database teams, VAS admins, WebLogic admins, okay, if you have a front end UI developers with React JS or Node JS or Bootstrap skill set, they are going to take care of all this front end UI related performance. The front end UI developer also takes care of the JavaScript optimization, which is a crucial part in the front end client side performance testing. So all these things will be handled by different teams. I understand that, but again, as I told you, this is huge. If you continuously talk, right, we can go in different directions and we can bring touch all the different technologies. If you're working on a cloud performance testing, do you really need to understand the complete Azure admin activities or GCP admin activities or AWS, Alibaba Cloud, Salesforce, Oracle Cloud? No, not really required. But there are various metrics of every cloud instance, and you can use some proper APM tool and you can understand what is the real issue. Okay. So we are talking about the load balancing best practices, the in-depth performance analysis, and many of you have the confusion between when I have to do capacity planning, when I have to do workload modeling. Are they both same? Okay, so can both of them can be performed at the same time or one at a time? All these things will be discussed when you do this capacity planning, how to create an efficient capacity model for your large systems. The classic example for capacity planning is the IRCTC. It initially started with very less user base. When someone is trying to buy a ticket, right, with a very less configuration, with a really less infrastructure, the government-based project, when you try to book a Tatkal ticket, right, when you click on make payment, you will be seeing a message, please do not click on back button or refresh button. The payment is being processed. The amount from after some time, the amount from the respective account will be deducted from your account, and you will get an exception saying that the ticket cannot be processed or something, right, which is a huge bottleneck. So year by year, quarter by quarter, okay, the user base has increased. They changed their capacity model, they changed the size of web app DB servers. They increased the availability, they increased the scalability. So they have given a lot of other things. Okay, so the same way, every application, if the return of investment is good, the activities are good, the business is good, people will obviously increase on the system, and accordingly you have to test with the mm, uh, with the available architecture. You have to suggest what size of RAM has to be increased, what how many number of cores has to be added to the existing system and all. Okay, so I'll also clearly tell you the difference between the traditional performance testing and cloud performance testing, the advantages and disadvantages. What is that you monitor from different instances in cloud performance testing? And the section 3 will talk about all the different Windows servers and Linux servers. Okay. Uh, Everyone must be knowing this, right? Every server, if you take database server, if you take application server, any server basically they sits on Linux, different flavor of Linux, and there are multiple flavors of Linux like Red Hat, Ubuntu, CentOS, and Windows. So there are various monitoring tools and other built-in utilities to monitor the Windows servers and other Linux servers, like nmon. If you take iostat, vmstat, all these things you have to install by using a yum command. Yum install nmon. You have to install all these packages. Before 2 to 3 years back, all these utilities are being used continuously, but with the advanced features of apm, right, now the apm tools are now uh, monitoring all the metrics counters that are available on all the different Windows and Linux servers. But always the best practice, if you want to monitor, if you want to understand the behavior, the performance of a specific server, you can go to nmon or you can go to perfmon. You can add your own metrics and you can see the performance of it. Okay, so the command line tools, and uh, many people have requested me to talk about the network performance monitoring tool. We'll also talk about what a network performance monitoring will monitor: the latency, the connection time on the wire, outside the wire, right? So to understand the slowness, my network performance monitor will play a very crucial role, right? If you take an example, to travel to airport, it will take 2 hours. For a check-in, it will take 3 hours. The travel time will take 8 hours. Okay, the checkout will take another 2 hours, and to reach your home, it will take another 1 hour. For example, if you take this example as the total duration of your test, if you want to understand where is the slowness exactly, is it in the check-in process? Is it in the travel time? Is it in the airport travel or returning back to home? If you want to calculate at component level, you need to understand the network performance monitoring. Okay, the latency, the number of packets received, packets sent, all these things. There are quality of service. So many other metrics are there. We'll talk about this monitoring tool. Okay, yeah, and obviously we'll talk about the CPU, memory, network performance issues of all the Windows and uh, servers. We will use multiple utilities on that, and you will have at the end of this course you will have a practical session on all the Windows and Linux servers. Okay, how to use perfmon, how to use nmon, how to create some dummy load, okay, to trigger the CPU. If you want to, if you're noticing the 90% of CPU utilization or 85% of memory utilization, there are some code snippets for that to simulate that, and you can take a different reports. All right, and this is the most important phase from this Java performance engineering. We will start the actual in-depth performance engineering. Okay, so if I talk about this different types of JVM, right? If I talk before I start with Java performance engineering model, I would strongly recommend all of you to learn some basics of Java, the structure of the structure of a simple Java program. What is JVM? What are all the different types of JVMs, right? Like JVM in Java, you have CLR in .NET, Common Language Runtime. Like JVM in Java and CLR in .NET, you have a PVM, a parrot-based virtual machine, which is used for Perl scripting applications. So for every technology, they got its own runtime engine like JVM or CLR or PVM. So when the application is deployed, when the load test is happening with multiple users, you will monitor all the JVM performance in JVM instances on your application. Let's say that. Okay, I'm sorry. Give me this. Okay, if you take right the JVM picture, if you look at this diagram, everyone is now, I mean, worried about what is heap area. Okay, what are the heap bottlenecks that I see? What is garbage collection? What is GC logs? So before you go ahead and understand this thing, right, we are explaining all the JVM internals, the different types of JVMs. So how the bytecode is executed in this runtime engine by using class loader subsystem, or this is we'll talk about all the memory areas that we have in the runtime data areas, especially the heap, the different areas in heap. Okay, so in the execution engine, you will have multiple performance bottlenecks. Okay, so not every bottleneck will be dealt by a performance engineer. Again, you'll be needing a help of uh, Java architect or a Java developer who is working in your application to monitor all of them, to profile the code or to refactor the code or to avoid any of the deadlocks. He or she has to take help. Okay, uh, from the respective teams. And before you go and learn all these things, right, we'll understand all this. We will clearly explain what is the JVM architecture, what is different types of loading, what is different types of linking, initialization, what are all the different memory out of memory exception errors that you get from heap, from stack, from PC registers. What is the role of this native method library? All these things will be explained in detail. Okay, so uh, we will tell you what is that you have to monitor from the Java performance monitoring, from the application that is deployed, and the JVM performance issues. Okay, how to optimize the long running applications. For example, if you get a high CPU utilization, what is the reason for high CPU utilization? Can anyone tell me?
There might be some GC activity happening at the time.
Mm-hmm. Any other answers? GC?
And maybe because of high user load also it might go up, right?
Okay. See, it always depends on uh, the problem. Okay. For example, if I'm evaluating you in the interview, what are the reasons for high CPU utilization? The immediate next question that you have to ask me is from which server? Is it a database server or web server, or is it an application server? If it is an application server, then you use all these different utilities to monitor all of them. You will monitor so many metrics to understand what is creating this high CPU utilization. As someone told, it can be GC. If it is on the database side, it can be because of multiple reasons. It can be because of some long running queries. It can be because of some undersized memory architectures, undersized memory structures. It can be because of host configuration changes, right? It can be because of multiple reasons. Okay, incorrect sizing of the log file. Every time the user is doing a load test activity, so many logs are created with so much of memory. There is no sufficient memory in your testing environment. When the memory is increasing, sometimes the side effect of this memory can also lead to high CPU utilization. Okay, so we are talking all of them, how to optimize the long running applications, how to monitor the Java applications. Okay, so different open source tools, the JVM, uh, the visual J console, J visual VM, all these things, the visual GC, all these things will be explained in detail. For example, if you see here, right? So I'm just giving you a real time example. Uh, this is one of the thread lock. Okay, so I'm telling you what I will teach you in the real time. So if I click on Java application, it is automatically opening the JProfiler, right? So how to integrate these JProfilers to different IDEs? Okay, what are all the other monitors that you have to monitor during your load test? How do you take, what are the different ways of multiple for taking multiple heap dumps, thread dumps? How to read a heap dump file, thread dump file? How to analyze the thread logs? So if you see the threads, like if you see here, the blocked threads are 0, right? The waiting threads are 5. The running threads are 0. Now if you see the red in, if you see the color in red here, now you're seeing the blocked thread 1. Now you're seeing the blocked threads 2. In the same way you will be seeing like this. uh, Now I have some 3 blocked threads, right? If you go to monitors and locks, here in the current locking graph, you'll understand which thread locked which object. Okay, so all these things will be explained in detail. You can also go to the heap walker. You can take a heap snapshot like this. You can take a heap like this. Okay, you can select the type of references here. Um, you can go and check all the different GC activities. You can see the CPU load, memory load. Okay, if you go to GC activity, you can mark and sweep, scavenge. You can run a GC forcefully here. If you see here, if there is a GC issue, if I'm running GC, right? Do you see the spike here? The GC happened and there is a drop here. It is trying to free up some memory. It freed some memory. So all these things from the integrations, the integration to multiple JVMs, multiple application servers is clearly explained. Okay. So if I go to this one, I'll also tell you the URKit profiler, JProfiler, JMC, JFR, Java flight recording applications. So the advanced concepts of heap dumps and thread dumps, how to monitor them, how to analyze them, how many thread dumps are required for your load test, how you have to decide all of that. Okay, there are some best practices and techniques, and there is a separate approach, efficient approach to identify all of the performance bottlenecks from heap and thread dumps. And most importantly, now you also have the garbage collection, which algorithm you have to use. We'll talk about serial collector, parallel, concurrent mark and sweep, G1C collector, Shenandoah, Jetsi, and Epsilon collectors. Okay, so in detail, we'll talk about all the GC performance problems in the load test, how to enable, how to analyze the GC log file, what is that you will understand from the GC log file. So how you have to tune GC, how can you tune the heap size, the permgen, the metaspace, the real garbage collection activity. It will talk from basics to advanced. Do not worry. So if you're in middle of something, if you know only half of the concepts, we are starting everything from the basic. We are talking about all the 4 whys, like what, why, when, and where. Okay. So we'll talk about all the 4 whys of each and every individual concept, and we'll show them practically. We'll also help you to create your own lab setup by giving some sample or .NET applications. You can buy cloud machine. Okay, most of you must be aware, right? There are some cloud machines available. If you spend some 800 or 900 per month, you will get a machine from different clouds. This is one machine from Contabo Cloud. This is a Windows server with 10 GB, 300 GB SSD, and i5 i3 or i5 processor. I'm not sure. So I have installed Oracle here. So you can create your own setup like this. Okay, you can buy some machines. You can install web server on one machine, app server on one machine, or you can install all of them in one machine. You can call it as a one tier architecture. You can do all these activities. You can access the application from the front end. You can record some use cases. You can install this profiler and you can monitor all of them. Okay. So again, we're also talking about the difference between the memory leaks, out of memory exceptions, the different JVM out of memory issues, how to deal with them. And there are n number of tools available in the market. So we are talking only the familiar tools and famous tools, which will give you the complete end-to-end visibility. Okay. Some of them are Eclipse Mat or JVisual VM. I showed you, right? JProfiler. So these are very good commercial tools, basically, which will give you the end-to-end information of all the profiling. Okay. So we are talking about how to tune the JVM, different thread tunings, the different stack sizes. Okay, and the last point is practical session of all the Java development with the sample Java application deployment, and we'll be doing some sample tests, and we'll monitor WebLogic or WebSphere along with the database server that you're using. If it can be the Oracle database server or MySQL, Postgres, or it can be SQL Server. All right, and so again, I forgot to add one point. So there are some points here. How to define the right heap memory for your load testing. Every time you see a memory leak or every time you get an out of memory exception, increasing the heap will not improve your performance by 0.001%. Okay. When you are getting all these errors, this performance engineering course will help you to do what is that you have to do when you're seeing this out of memory exception. What is the troubleshooting technique, tuning layer by layer, step by step. There is a different approach. We'll also talk about uh, Eden, right? The different generations of heap, non-heap memory, the metaspace, permgen. If you talk, we'll talk about young generation, performance bottlenecks, older generation. If you take younger generation, we'll talk about the Eden space, the multiple survivor spaces, survivor 0, survivor 1, and the Eden space. What is the ratio that you have to give? How you have to define the sizes of each generation? All of these things will be practically shown. If you want to increase the heap size, where is that you will increase in WebLogic server? How do you increase that in WebSphere or Apache Tomcat, Catalina.bat file? What are the parameters you tune? How do you know which Java algorithm is being used? All these things will be shown practically. The real-time GC monitoring will also show you one GC monitoring tool. We'll analyze GC log. We'll try to understand what are the different performance issues of all the Java-based applications. Okay, so you cannot again the course that I have defined for advanced Java performance engineering is not limited. This will be sufficient for any performance tester who is having 15 years of experience. The agenda of this course will help you to clear any complex interview with respect to performance testing and engineering to get some good opportunity with a big MNC with huge pay. There is a standard for years of experience, right? Forget about forget about what you are doing in the project. The first thing is getting the opportunity with the right company with the right pay, right? So the agenda of this course is like you will get all the hands-on experience on performance engineering with testing. If you are having 10 years, you can uh, you will I mean this course will become make you like a 4 years experienced candidate in performance engineering by looking at all the end-to-end activities that we do, that we teach. Okay, you'll be able to clear any complex interview. That is the agenda of this course. Okay, so this course is a separate package. Whatever I am talking uh, is the complete package. I'll tell you in the last. Okay, So this is a separate package. People who wants only Java performance engineering also, this course is available. And if you take the .NET performance engineering, right? .NET performance engineering. So the same way, the .NET also will have the heap memory, like Eden, young generation, old generations, you will have small object heap, large object heap. You will have different generations, like generation 0, generation 1, and generation 2 in the heap memory. Okay, so we are talking about the real-time .NET performance issues, the different metrics that we have to monitor, the Visual Studio, like the .NET performance measurement, the .NET memory management, the memory profiling. Okay, there are various profilers that are integrated with the Visual Studio 2019 IDE. Like you have to how to deploy the application on IAS server, and how to connect it to the database by using a connection string or directly from the IDE. So how do you deploy? How do you select a .NET based profiler? Okay, how do you collect all the SQL Server statistics? For example, if you are analyzing the .NET application, how to analyze the IAS logs, right? If your customer is asking you to use only the open source tool, how do you do that? Okay, so all these things will be discussed. The advanced level, it will talk about all the different garbage collection algorithms, the different pastimes, how to reduce the view states. You must be knowing what is view state, right? This is one of the most complex parameter in any of the .NET application. You have to correlate it, view state, event validation. There are other parameters actually which you need to correlate. So the locking and synchronization, all these things will be discussed. As I told you, always the application that is from the .NET will be hosted on IAS web server, and that will be connected to SQL Server, because all of them are Microsoft products, right? So that is the only reason when I am dealing with .NET applications, we are giving all the real-time practice on IAS server and SQL Server. Okay, I'll tell you how to create tables, how to design the database. All these things will be covered in the practical sessions. So okay, if I oh, hang on, sorry. So like this I'll be installing uh, I'm explaining what I'm going to show you in real time. Okay, so okay, I'm opening this solution file directly, whatever the source code that I have. I'm opening that. This is one of the sample application. So if you go to this one, right, whatever the configurations that you do, okay, in any of the application, you do it in the web.config file. This, if you are writing, so if an application you have, right, for example, application home page. Allow me a minute. This is slow. I'm sorry for that. Okay. So this is the application. This is one page. This is the home page of the .NET application. If you see here, there are different functionalities here. Likewise, whatever the pages that you have, right, you have all these pages, admin categories 1, ASPX. These are all the different pages that you have in the application. And if you want to make any of the changes in this source code, right, this is the ultimate file, web.config. If you go to web.config, do you see the connection string here? This is how you will connect your application to the database SQL server. You are using a connection string here in the web.config. Basically, in the Java, we use JDBC driver. We give the user ID, the password, the machine name of the database. Okay, this is the data source IP of my database, and yeah, this is the client that I'm using. This is one way of connecting your application directly from the Visual Studio to the database server. You can also directly connect from here also. You have some option to connect to the database. All right, I'll tell you how the application can be deployed on IIS server, how to monitor that, how to monitor GC, how to monitor heap. All of these things will be explained in detail. All right, so if you see here, you also have some of the performance profilers. So if you see the performance profiler here, you can click on start. You can select the profiling here. You can take the heap dumps directly from here. Okay. Well, what it will do is it will perform some. This is the latest version of Visual Studio 2019. It is directly coming with inbuilt performance profilers. Earlier, we can also use ants profiler. We can use CLR profiler. We can use dot trace profiler. So many other profilers we have for .NET. Like in Java, we have Java JProfiler, JProbe. So many things are there, right? So all these things will help you. I'm going to show all of this stuff, the deployments, the different working of all the working activities of all the .NET applications from end to end. Okay. If you talk about the section 8, we are talking about the most common things: high CPU, the reasons for high CPU spinning. Okay, the problems from the inefficient code, the problems from the architecture, the performance issues that are involved from different areas of uh, the architecture, right? If you take web app DB servers, are you using the right web application server? Are you using the right database server? How they are configured? Okay, how to scale the CPU or memory every time if you see high memory utilization or high CPU utilization. A classic example again, uh, you started a test for 2 hours. In the initial 10 minutes, you are seeing 99% of the CPU utilization. Do you directly increase the CPU slot on it? Anyone? The test went well for the initial 10 minutes. Now the CPU is 100% from the 11th minute and it was constant. It was 99.92% something. Now, do you recommend a direct increase of the CPU slot? What is your approach here?
Why CPU has increased successful suddenly? So we need to identify. So maybe application processes are consuming more memory. So more memory in the sense, it is going to increase the number of objects, and CPU will be increased as well.
Okay.
That is one of the reason.
Okay.
Are you talking about web app server CPU or database CPU?
It can be anything. I mean, you have seen, you noticed, because in the monitoring tool, you see the CPU, right? It can be anything.
So first thing we have to see the CPU processing time, and then CPU interrupts, and then CPU queue. So are there any requests under queue? Maybe because of
So
threads
in
that are
this, yeah, sorry, please go ahead.
maybe because of some blocked threads, CPU is still consuming, and there is no other CPU available for new request, right? So might be causing the high CPU.
Yep, that is, yeah, yes, that is one reason. And have you heard about the percentage user time, the percentage privileged
Yes,
time? the percentage processor time.
Yes. So first thing we should see whether CPU, when CPU increases, we should know whether it's a user time or system time, right? So if it is user time, maybe causing because of our load test. If it is a system time, because of other OS related kind of.
Right. So whenever you see some bottleneck, right, you need to break that first. First point that you have to do is you need to break that into bits and pieces. If it is a CPU, you have an in-depth metrics for that: percentage processor time, percentage CPU, percentage user time, percentage privileged time. So, but the most important metric is the percentage processor time. Everything is important, but you need to check which metric is high, and you have to troubleshoot accordingly. Okay, not every time increasing the memory and CPU will fix the problem. Not increasing by increasing the heap size, increasing the number of CPU cores, increasing additional memory slot will not improve the performance by 0.01%. Instead of seeing the error within the first 10 minutes, if you're getting out of memory error, right, you're seeing that in 15 minutes. If you're increasing the heap size, you will see the same error in 60 minutes. The duplication, the temporary objects allocation, or the high GC pause times is same. It is happening in the background. So you have to monitor everything carefully from the user level, operational level, network level, system level, server level, to understand where the bottleneck is from. Okay, all these things, high response times has n number of reasons, and memory performance problems, right? There are hundreds of memory problems. Even a performance Oracle DBA guru who is having some 15 years of experience sometimes will fail to fix a memory problem on the production database server, because some of the production database servers will have 256 GB RAM. They will give sufficient SGA and PGA. They have to monitor a lot of things: efficient partitioning, efficient designing of the tables, the schema, the execution plan. So many things will impact. Okay. So all these things will be clearly explained. The high network latency issues. If you're testing on a VMs, different environments, all these things. Okay. And the best practices. Okay, there are many approaches, different strategies from CPU, from COEs. I don't know how many of the companies are still adopting the COE practices. They are centralized. Okay, they are they have to be followed from every team in the organization, because without any appropriate process approach, or if you don't have a predefined testing life cycle process or engineering life cycle process, which tools you have to use, if you don't have all of these things right, after completion of your testing with neoload for 6 months, in the starting of 7th month you will realize that this tool is not meeting my need, which will put the entire team into red, complete escalation. So selecting the tools, selecting the appropriate tool for your business case is very, very important. Identifying most of the non-functional requirements are misunderstood by many of the performance engineering teams, right? How all the common performance mistakes can be avoided before you start any of the performance testing. Before you run a load test, before you're trying to execute something for a very long time, for 2 days, 48 hours, do you really follow a checklist? Do you check the available memory, the available processors, the scripts are working fine or not? There is a big checklist you have to check, and you have to pass all of them, then you have to run the test. Without all these best practices or some of the efficient techniques, you, even if you use n number of different tools, even if you work with experts, even if you learn so many technologies, it will not give you an efficient, reliable results. Okay, so this is the way you project to your stakeholders and to your business holders. In this way, it will create a value add in for you, for your role in the company, and it will create a unique importance of your job role. They cannot fire you, or they cannot stop from giving business. You will continuously get a business. You need to define the right approach, right strategy, right estimation plan. Okay, you need to involve all the different teams to finalize the requirements, right? You have to take part in all the different phases of discussions. You should be involved in requirements gathering. You should be involved in architectural design. You should be involved in the hardware sizing. What is the size that you're defining for your load testing environment? You should be the only guy who is taking care of the end-to-end setup of your performance testing environment, dedicated setup. Okay, all these things we will teach the performance monitoring best practices. Okay, and the 10, I told you, right, this is a very big concept, the section 10, database performance monitoring and tuning. Mostly I am focusing on Oracle database, the reason being very big concepts, very big applications with respect to security, with respect to the data management, efficiency, or any kind of support tickets which gets solved within the next 10 hours or 24 hours. We prefer database, Oracle database. Most of the BFSIs running applications with huge user volumes, right? They choose Oracle. We'll also touch base with SQL Server database. We'll talk about so many uh, other things from the Oracle database, not like a DBA. So DBA will take care of your role is to your role is to talk. Your role is to take analyze multiple AWR reports, ADDM reports, okay, ASH reports. So there is a concept called a tuning by layer, and even as I told you, even the Oracle DBA will have to take many years to completely analyze all the sections in AWR. But in AWR, there are few important sections with respect to performance that will let or make understand the performance engineer what really happened for the entire test duration that you have ran. Okay, so AWR detailed analysis reports will tell you how to take AWR report. We'll also teach you how you have to define the different memory areas for your load testing. All the database, I'm sorry, my throat was bad. All the different database performance problems, the tuning methods. Uh, yeah, the last part, how we have to optimize a query. You need some basic SQL writing skills to understand the structure and body of the SQL query. Okay. With the help of SQL profilers, we'll tell you how to optimize the SQL query, what are all the areas that you have to tune accordingly. From the database side, we are teaching all the Oracle database activities end to end, SQL Server and MySQL Server and Postgres are at a very high level. We are not integrating these servers, MySQL or Postgres or any other open source database servers to any of the applications. The Java applications is in the integrate is connected to Oracle database. The sample.NET application is connected to SQL Server database, and the SQL Server profiling, queries profiling is already available. Okay, it's already there. This is the last section, the client-side performance testing. We have multiple tools. Okay, Lighthouse, GTmetrix. You're monitoring the critical rendering covered, but again, we are trying to analyze with the help of the tools. We are trying to monitor, understand where cannot directly refactor the code. You cannot minimize the JavaScript. Okay, you will not have access to any of the front-end UI technologies. Okay, even if you want to compress the HD images on your application, right? If you open the Amazon, you will you will be seeing an image scrolling with that respective ad for the day, right? You wantedly downsize the size of that image. Okay. Downsize the image, and you will not have any you will not even have an access to compress the images, but there is a separate report that will be generated from uh, the GTmetrix will show you different tools how to perform this client-side performance testing, Lighthouse plugin with Chrome plugin. the image compressions, browser level caching, avoiding redirects, all these things will be clearly explained. Okay, this is all about the course plan. Okay, the last slide is what is the end result of this course. Okay, what will be the output of this course? The output of this course is to make, I am repeating that again for you, is to make every performance tester to get some good hands-on experience on performance engineering concepts on both Java and .NET. Okay, he or she who is completing this course will be able to clear any kind of complex interview with respect to performance engineering. Again, you need to have the basics of core Java. If someone is evaluating you from the core Java, that will not be from my side, right? Whatever the activities that are happening as part of performance engineering, performance testing in the complete end-to-end full life cycle project implementation, that is my responsibility. But if someone is asking you to write, if someone is asking you to write a Fibonacci series program, like, we can't do anything for that, because I have seen many of the companies now, the automation engineers are now evaluating performance engineers, right? So I'm not completely blaming it, but trust me, I have been to a very big MNC very recently. There is a guy with 6 year experience came to me, asked me to write Fibonacci series. I have written it and I have given it to him. Okay, then the basics of JMeter were asked, and I'm in. That's all. There are 5 rounds again with huge pay. The first 2 rounds were taken by the automation SDET people who have some basic experience on JMeter, load runner. They will search for some interview questions on the blogs. They'll come to you and evaluate you. The opportunity is wasted. So the output of this course is very constructive, very efficient. It will make you to clear any of the interviews. It will show you all the performance engineering activities on real time. And again, the last point that I would like to add is, if you have if you have some sufficient time, okay, if you are able to spend some time for the next 45 days, if you are completely focused of this course, if you can't spend time, if you can't practice, if you can't do some basic installations, basic deployments, if you I'm not saying that you unnecessarily do it, but you don't get time because of this pandemic. You have, everyone has to balance the professional and personal life. You may not get some time with your kids, the newborn babies. Most of them are babysitters in the night, daytime, managing both personal life and professional life. So whenever I give some task on daily basis, you should have some time to read it. We'll give you all the possible questions at the end of each and every session. Okay, and I'm not going to give answers for that. Do not prepare. I strongly say this to all of you: do not prepare, do not search for any of the performance engineering questions. Learn this course, understand the concepts practically, monitor everything on real time, draft your own answer which is valid again, right? Because if I ask you what is high GC pause time, you never know there is a GC log. Most of you don't know how to enable the GC log. If I talk about the JVM flags, even none of the developers know the complete list of JVM flags. XMS, use G1C, you know, right? Heap ratio. There are some JVM flags, JVM parameters that you have to define. Uh, Let me show you one simple example in the last. So if you look at this command window, right? I opened one application. This is a sample application. Okay. So Java, this is -xmx is the maximum heap size. Okay, xmx is the maximum size, xmx is the minimum size, xmn perm size, permanent size. Use parallel GC. This is the G1 algorithm that I'm using. So like xmx max perm size, XMS, you have 600 JVM arguments to play with memory and GC. None of them knows which argument is doing what. Okay, there are some 30 to 40 JVM arguments that you need to know and how you have to set them. All right. So if you go here into the Windows, if you go to the Java, right? If you go to the Java, this is a sample application I'm showing, but we have other things. If I open JVisual VM, so can I take heap dumps from JVisual VM? Red dumps, can I take?
Yeah, we can take.
All right. So do you see this one? This is the application that it is running. So I'm clicking on it. You see the JVM arguments, the minimum, maximum heap, all these things that are defined here. So you can monitor all these things, heap, meta space. Okay. You can perform GC. You can directly take a heap dump. The heap dump is captured. Okay. You can take a thread dump directly from here for all threads or live threads. You can take a thread dump like this. The thread dump will be created. Okay. So again, if you go to the samplers, you have inbuilt profilings. You can go here. You can again. How did I get this visual GC? Do you see the meta space, holder, hidden space, survivor spaces S0, S1? You see the garbage collection happened. The memory freed up in the hidden space, and again there is a sawtooth pattern. The memory is continuously increasing. Right? You can see all of them here. And to get this GC right, not everyone will get this GC. You have to go to tools, you have to go to plugins, then go to available plugins. I have already installed. Okay, I can select it and uninstall it. Okay, you have to go here and you have to select Visual GC, select that, and you need to click on install. Only when you click this, select this Visual GC, right? When you install this plugin, you will be seeing all these activities. So like this, there are various ways, okay, JVisual VM or JConsole, JMC. Even if you see here, right, if you open the JMC, there are a lot of things that will happen in JMC again. This is a commercial tool, okay. You can basically do all types of profiling here. You will understand everything from here. From clicking on start JMX recording and all. So all these things you have to set the different parameters and you have to enable this one. This is a commercial tool basically. So you can monitor all of them like this. Okay. So this is the total agenda of this course. Okay. Yeah. You guys have any questions now?
So this course will be weekdays for the weekends?
No, this course will happen 5 days a week, Monday to Friday. Every alternate week it will happen 4 days. Okay, if this week if I'm taking 5 days, the next week it will happen only for 4 days.
So it's a 1 to 2 hour session in the same time.
7 o'clock to hopefully it should close by 8:30. 8:30 you can think 1.5 hour.
And what the fees? The course fees?
The course fees